When I was about 13, a professor of theology came to speak at my middle school Bible study. I'll never forget the question he asked. He said, "Why did you get out of bed this morning?" One by one, all my middle school buddies and I would give our answers, and every time he did, he would just ask us why. And so we would give him the best answers we could. We got out of bed this morning so that we could go to school. And we went to school so that we could get good grades. And we got good grades so that we could eventually go to a good college. And we wanted to go to a good college so we could eventually make lots of money. And we wanted all that money so that we could buy stuff. And after all our answers and asking why to each one, this professor sat back, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "So if I understand you correctly, the purpose of your life, the reason you got out of bed this morning and most of the other mornings so far, is that you want a lot of money so that you can buy stuff." Even at age 13, that moment left a massive impact on my life. Suddenly, accumulating as much stuff as I could possibly get seemed completely pointless. I knew right then and there, I wanted my life to mean something more. Viktor Frankl once wrote that life is not primarily a quest for pleasure, as Freud believed, or a quest for power, as Alfred Adler taught, but rather a quest for meaning. But the question then becomes, where are we supposed to find that meaning for our lives? Our culture has a really simple answer to this, and it goes like this: look within yourself. Find your own meaning. If there's an ultimate purpose to our world, we can't know what it is. So what you need to do is find the one thing that represents your ultimate dream, then go out there and just get it. This seems like intuitive logic to most of us. In fact, if you've never asked yourself why you got out of bed in the morning, there's a pretty good chance you're living out that answer by default. But the problem with this logic is simple. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for two reasons, two unique dangers. The first one is that you can very easily fail to live up to your own standards. That in making the purpose of your life to follow your dreams, you'll be cursed with never actually measuring up to the goals you've created for yourself. But there's another danger, and it's one that culture is surprisingly unaware of, but one which the top 1% of our society keeps warning about if only we'd listen. And the danger is that we'll succeed. Polls tell us that after a certain amount of wealth, adding extra millions simply ceases to make us happier, and instead can actually create a unique feeling of dissatisfaction among the ultra-rich. Sometimes I wonder how many billionaires are sitting on their yachts right now in the Caribbean, contemplating the purpose of their lives and realizing that having it all hasn't actually made them happy. Or take creative success. Recently, I saw actor Matt Damon give an incredibly honest and vulnerable interview where he talked about what it was like to win an Oscar for Good Will Hunting at age 27. He talks about going back to his home and throwing this gold, shiny Oscar award that he had just won. He throws it on the bed and he remembers thinking, essentially, thank God I didn't destroy anyone's life to get this, because it's not worth it. Maybe that's why there's an old Irish curse that goes like this: may you eventually be given everything you ever wanted. Maybe that's why G.K. Chesterton wrote, despair does not lie in being weary of suffering, but in being weary of joy. It is when for some reason or other that the good things in a society no longer work, that the society begins to decline. When its food does not feed, when its cures do not cure, when its blessings refuse to bless. If there is no God, then the tragic bottom line for you and me is that nothing we do ultimately matters. Nothing can give us the significance we crave. Not our biggest adventures, not our most destructive wars, not all the money and success in the world. But there's a flip side to that idea, and it's hopeful. In a world where there is a God, then everything we do ultimately matters. In Matthew chapter 7, Jesus says, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. As a kid at the beach, I loved having competitions with my cousins to see how close we could build our sandcastles to the waves. It's a really fun game, but after a few hours, we would start to get so wet and so miserable. And we realized that no matter how good our sandcastles were, if they were too close to the tides, they would always fall down. On the other hand, I have at times gotten to stay in a massive cabin near my home in Colorado with logs that are literally almost 5 feet in diameter and whose foundations go straight into solid granite. In a cabin like that, I've laid awake at night listening to a winter blizzard howl against the walls, knowing that it would never bring the house down because the foundation was on solid rock. That's an amazing feeling. Jesus claims to be the foundation we need for purpose in our lives. This week, I want to show you that if you've found him, then you have found the thread that weaves itself through the entire story of humanity and the key to knowing exactly why you were put on this earth in the first place. So stick with us this week and we'll pull on that thread together to see where it leads.